acceptance. What comes up for you when I say that? How do you feel in your body? Do you feel expansive? Contracted? You see, acceptance is very contradictory. It's paradoxical. In the beginning stages of acceptance, you might feel resistance. You might feel contracted, like you're closing off, shutting down, like you're wanting to avoid it. However, acceptance is very fascinating because eventually, at some point, sometime, you'll begin to feel openness, a sense of expansion, a sense of freedom. That's what acceptance does. It bites you up front, but then it heals you in the long term. Acceptance is a big part of being able to bloom beyond perfectionism in so many ways. Acceptance allows you to release the need to control, the need to attach, the need to have expectations met over and over and over again. Excessively high standards met. Acceptance also allows you to no longer procrastinate to the same extent that you might have done in the past, procrastinating on difficult decisions, procrastinating on something that you would like to do or stop doing, procrastinating on all sorts of things. Acceptance really helps as you cross the wooden beam of acrasia, as I call it. What does that mean? Well, acrasia is resistance. If you look up the term acrasia, you'll see that it means resistance. And the wooden beam, well, what I invite you to imagine is that there's this wooden beam on the floor ahead of you. And if I told you or invited you to cross that wooden beam laying on the floor, you would most likely cross that wooden beam, wouldn't you? Because the wooden beam is on the floor. There's no danger in falling down or anything like that, right? But what if I told you that that wooden beam was up in the air in between two skyscrapers? And that you now were invited to cross it? What would you feel? You'd probably feel resistance. You'd probably feel that manifest as control, procrastination, attachment, and expectation. See, so it's all about the perceived resistance that will have you not accept something, not cross the wooden beam. Same thing happens in your mind. You might want to do something, but because the perceived resistance is so big, you're not doing that. You're not making that call or having that conversation or taking that leap into the unknown. And so the wooden beam of acrasia is still there. The resistance is still there. And the only way to cross is through acceptance. Acceptance that when you cross it, you might fall down, you might get across, you might actually have any outcome. You're not attached to the outcome anymore. You simply accept things for what they are. More often than not, you actually get invited to accept, but because of perfectionism, you might turn it down. And so you might be nudged by the universe to finally drop it, to accept. Acceptance is the action of consenting to receive or undertake something offered. And so it literally is an action that begins in your mind. When you're accepting something, you're also making a decision at the same time, don't you? And decision means to cut off. So in order to reach this acceptance, you are invited to cut something off. And that is where the resistance comes in. That's where acrasia shows up. That's where you're invited to cross the wooden beam of acrasia. But the fascinating thing here is that it's the action of consenting to receive something or undertaking something offered. So when you are accepting, you are giving consent to receive something new. Something that actually you might not see right now in the physical, but that is always on its way to you. There's this concept called the vacuum law, or the vacuum law of prosperity, which I first heard from Bob Proctor. And he talks about this vacuum law of prosperity being this vacuum that happens when you accept, when you make a decision, when you let something go. So when you accept, there will be a vacuum there, because oftentimes you will then let go of something in order to receive something else. And acceptance doesn't necessarily just have to be accepting an outcome that you didn't necessarily want. Acceptance can also be accepting that your life is evolving and shifting and changing. Acceptance that you are in a transit right now. Or accepting that things are blissfully, joyfully going in a direction that you are super grateful for. That is also acceptance. But you're still cutting off something, aren't you? When you're accepting. And so acceptance is the action of consenting to receive or undertake something offered. It is the active embracing of subjective experience, particularly distressing experiences, like I've said, but also experiences that are also joyful. So it's all about being able to embrace acceptance, and embracing something is very much something that goes hand in hand. One way to go about acceptance is by asking yourself, let's say you're with someone and you want to ask yourself then, if this behavior or habit or approach doesn't change, would I be okay accepting it and living with it for years and decades to come? Would I be okay with that? And you might say, yeah. You might say no. You might say yes. You might say no. The different connotation or the different frequency of your voice, of your inner voice as well, when you answer that question can signify to you where you are in your acceptance journey. Maybe you say maybe. And if it's a maybe, then you might be confused. Then you might not have reached acceptance yet, because acceptance is something that you might say can be reached, but I think it's more so something that is activated within you, that is already within you. The acceptance is there. It's more so about, are you willing to receive that activation? That acceptance activation. If it's a yes, then obviously when you accept, you're going to cut off something else. And so you have successfully crossed the wooden beam of acrasia. And that is when you can take root, when you can rise, and when you can bloom. Because you've accepted. Make sure that you believe it from your soul, your answer, your acceptance answer. That it's not just lip service. When you ask yourself, if this X, Y, and Z doesn't change, would I be okay accepting it? Not just for now, but for moving forward too. Or no? Tune into the soul. Tune into the light and the sunflower and the bloomer within. It speaks to you through so many channels, through your body. It speaks to you through nudges, through hunches, through feelings and emotions and your intuition. It speaks to you through the way that you see yourself. Brené Brown has a saying which says, our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. And so, are you willing to self-accept, to accept self? Are you willing to do that? To be with that? Because it's not something you do. Acceptance is not something you do. It's an action. It's an act that happens in the mind first. It's a decision, a choice. And it's, again, activated within you. And when that's activated within you, that's self-acceptance, guess what? You belong more to yourself. You open yourself up to belonging to self and to others. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? When you find self-acceptance, belonging flourishes. Because you're opening yourself up to the frequency of acceptance. Meaning that those that come into your field, the experiences that come into your field, the people, places, and things that come into your field, they're all coming from a level of self-acceptance. This is acceptance. You can join the Bloom Beyond tribe to be able to also learn more about this. This act of acceptance, to be able to have a sense of accountability, to come to some sort of acceptance around your evolution, around your growth, around what you might be invited to let go of and step into. It takes brightness, bravery, and balance. It takes a lot of bravery, a lot of courage to come to self-acceptance. And being in a community of others who are on that same journey is really supportive, and it's pretty wise, if you ask me. It's pretty wise to surround yourself with others on that same journey. On that same journey of blooming beyond, resistance, acrasia, crossing the wooden beam of acrasia. And within the Bloom Beyond Perfectionism program, which you can explore through our demo, when you're inside of the Bloom Beyond tribe, inside of the Bloom Beyond Perfectionism program, we cover this in detail. How to deal with, for instance, this resistance and how it manifests as attachment, control, procrastination, and expectation, to reach a level of acceptance and activate that within you. Go to bloombeyond.com/apply to apply to join a free monthly cohort in the Bloom Beyond tribe, and we might see you on the other side. This is your invitation to accept the invitation, to make a decision, to cut off everything that's holding you back from making the decision and moving forward into this supportive tribe. Stay bright, brave, and balanced.